Hello everybody, Conkeronine here, and I just have to get this out of the way. I love the Ninja Turtles. I'll be honest, I wasn't the biggest Ninja Turtles fan when I was a kid, but that's probably because the only Ninja Turtle related things I had as a kid were the original live action movies, and that was pretty much it. But over the years as I've gotten older, I got to watch a huge chunk of the classic 1987 cartoon, and I've become a much bigger fan of Ninja Turtles since. Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, the creators of the Turtles, probably would have never thought that their little comic book series would have spawned a hugely popular cartoon series with more to come in the future, a huge chunk of action figures, movies, a spin-off comic book series by Archie, the Ninja Turtles being the spokesman of Pizza Hut and being in their own rock band, and of course, video games. So as you can tell, I'm going to be reviewing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time for the Super Nintendo. Let's jump right in. The story starts out with April O'Neil given the news like always when suddenly Krang shows up and steals the Statue of Liberty. Why do Shredder and Krang want the Statue of Liberty? We're not too sure, but hey, they're up to their old tricks again, and it's up to the Turtles to fight Shredder and Krang once again, while also old Shredhead also sends the Turtles back to several points in time, to dinosaur times, the time of pirates, the Old West, and even the far future, and that's pretty much the story. It's a pretty simple and pretty cool story of the Turtles going back through time. When you start the game, you get to choose which Ninja Turtle you want to be. Leonardo the leader, Michelangelo the party dude, Donatello the brains of the team, and Raphael, the rude and sarcastic one. There are also some slight differences with the Turtles when you play as them. For example, Raphael's the fastest, but he has the shortest weapons. Donatello may have the longest weapon, but he has the slowest walking speed. But you'll barely notice any of this stuff in-game, but I just thought I'd point that out because I'm a huge geek. So, yeah, as you can already tell, Turtles in Time is a beat-em-up game. You start from the left of the stage and get to the right of the stage, beating the life out of everyone and everything that gets in your way while getting there. The enemies you'll be fighting are a huge number of foot soldiers wearing different colors and carrying different weapons, along with some rock warriors and along with some robots, such as the Mousers. There are also 2 levels in the game where you ride on a surfboard in the sewers fighting the monsters from the Killer Pizza episode, and one where you ride a hoverboard in the future where the Super Nintendo gets to show off its Mode 7! And at the end of each level you fight a boss, and the bosses you'll be fighting are Fly Baxter Stockman, Metalhead, the Rat King, Toka and Razar from the second movie, Shredder and a giant robot machine, Slash, Bebop and Rocksteady as pirates, Leatherhead, Krang with and without his android body, and finally, Super Shredder. And of course, there's also a couple of boxes of pizzas in all the stages that will refill all of your health no matter how low it is, and there's also another one with a bomb symbol on it that will make your turtle spin around very, very fast, and you can kill all the enemies on screen with one hit. And by the way, just a little tip, if you are going to play Turtles in Time with a second player, always make sure whoever has the lowest health gets the box of pizza. Just a little tip. There's also a way how to get extra lives in the game while playing. If you take out a whole bunch of enemies and reach 200 points, then you get an extra life. Now, this is not all Turtles in Time has to offer. There's a time trial mode to see how fast you can beat all the enemies in the stage and not die once. There's a versus mode that some people probably didn't even know existed, where you and a second player can fight each other as the Turtles. It's a pretty interesting feature, and this was before Tournament Fighters was even out. And of course, there's also an options mode where you can change some of the settings and also change the difficulty, and spoiler alert, you have to put it on the hard mode to get the real ending to the game. Now let's talk about the controls. They're pretty basic. The Y button is your attack button, and if you press it around, say, 4 times, you can make the foot soldiers go flying to the ground, and you'll pretty much be doing this a lot in the game. And if you also mess around with the D-pad while attacking, you can throw your enemies from left to right, or even throw them at the screen, which is pretty fun to do sometimes. The B button makes you jump, and if you also hit the attack button while you're jumping, you can do a couple of jump/kick attacks. Now, if you hit the Y and B button at the same time, you can make the turtles do their secret special attack. But I wouldn't recommend using this attack a lot because whenever you hit an enemy with your special attack, it slowly drains your health away. So I don't really recommend using this attack a lot unless you know that a pizza's going to show up very soon in the stage, or use it a couple of times on some of the bosses to finish them off quickly. An interesting thing is that if you press Y and B at the same time and hold it down in the versus mode, the turtles will duck their heads inside their shells and you can block the other player's attacks. If you hold forward on the D-pad for 1 or 2 seconds, the turtles will then start running, and then you can do 2 things. 1. Press the Y button while you're running to make the turtles dash into an enemy, or 2. Press the B button while you're running to make the turtles do a couple of flips, and then quickly press the Y button to make them do a slide attack. One really weird thing though in the game is that the select button is the pause button. Yeah, I don't get that at all. But hey, at least there's a pause button in the game, so no real harm done. The graphics look really nice. Everything's bright and colorful, and the characters and some of the stages look like they were ripped straight right out of the '87 cartoon, which is a pretty good job for Konami. I also think that it's a pretty nice touch to have Tokka and Rahzar and Super Shredder from the second Ninja Turtles movie, so that's also a pretty nice touch that Konami did. And there's the music, and oh how I love the music! The music is very upbeat and great to listen to, and the music in the game does sound like music that would sound like something from the cartoon. My favorite music track and my favorite stage in the game, hands down, is Neon Knight Riders. I just love how this stage looks in my opinion. With the bright and colorful futuristic buildings in the background, with the catchy techno-y futuristic music playing, I just absolutely freaking love this stage. Same time, this is also where you get to fight Krang for the first time, and he's one of the more funner bosses to fight in the game. And speaking of Ninja Turtle villains, I'm actually glad that Konami decided to go with the action figure version of Slash, because the actual Slash from the cartoon was kind of dumb and stupid looking, to be honest. So yeah, I'm glad that they went with the action figure version. He just looks much more cooler. There's also this little detail that I like. When you defeat Bebop and Rocksteady at the pirate stage, they start fighting with each other and pretty much just kill themselves. I actually like this quite a lot because if you've seen the cartoon, there have been times where Bebop and Rocksteady would fight and argue with each other. So this game definitely brings those two characters that we know and love from the cartoon totally to life in this game. You can also change the skin color on the turtles, and you can make them all the same green like they are in the cartoon, or have them be different shades of green and make them look more like the original action figures. Alright, that's enough of the good stuff, time to get to the problems now. Now, even though it's pretty cool that Slash is in this game, he is sadly the most difficult and annoying boss to fight in this game, especially on the hard mode. You have to be very careful with Slash, because if you don't, this guy can totally drain your health in an instant, and you can't attack him up front because he'll block all of your attacks, and you can only attack him when he's jumping in the air at certain points, or attack behind his back, which is his weak point. But you still gotta be careful because once his health starts getting down low, he'll start doing this flying cannonball move that's a bit difficult to avoid. I will go as far to say that Slash is more difficult and annoying than Super Shredder. This is also one of the reasons why that the dinosaur stage is my least favorite stage in the game, because Slash is a very annoying boss to fight, and if you're not very good at fighting him on the hard mode by yourself, well, I hope you're prepared to see that continue in Game Over screen a lot. Another boss fight that I don't really like fighting is Shredder and his giant robot machine. Now don't get me wrong, I like the idea of throwing foot soldiers at the screen to take out his giant robot. I think that makes a pretty cool boss. But, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I have a pretty difficult time sometimes trying to throw foot soldiers at the screen. And it doesn't make things any easier when you're trying to do this on the hard mode where you're trying to throw foot soldiers at the screen that like to block a lot of your attacks. There's also these annoying yellow foot soldiers that you'll see on the hard mode that like to throw these deadly frisbees that come back to them, and when you try to kick them in the air sometimes, they'll just kick you back. These guys are annoying to fight sometimes, and it doesn't help when you have other foot soldiers get in the way while you're trying to fight one of them. Turtles in Time first started out as a 4-player arcade game in '91 and was a sequel to Konami's first Ninja Turtles arcade game in '89. Oh, by the way, is it me, or do the turtles on the arcade flyer look like a combination of the old action figures and old plush dolls? Just thought I'd point that out. I played both of these games in the arcade, and I can honestly tell you that these games are so fun to play in the arcade. And if you can get 3 other more people to play with you, then these games must be a heck of a lot more fun to play at the arcade. Interesting thing with Turtles in Time, the arcade version, it's actually a little bit different from the Super Nintendo version, and some of the examples being it's not as long as the Super Nintendo version, and it has less bosses. For example, at the end of the sewer stage, instead of fighting Rat King and then moving on to the Technodrome stage, you're fighting a whole bunch of pizza monsters at the end, and then Shredder transports you back into time. So there's no Rat King boss fight or Technodrome stage in the arcade version. And at the end of the Dinosaurs stage, instead of fighting Slash, you fight Cement Man, one of the more obscure Ninja Turtle villains, and from my knowledge, he only appeared in 1 episode in Season 2, as a henchman for Baxter Stockman. And at the end of the Pirate stage, instead of fighting Bebop and Rocksteady, in the arcade version, this is where you fight Tokka and Razar. The Neon Knight Rider stage also looks a bit different as well in the arcade version, and in my opinion, I think the Super Nintendo version looks a lot cooler. Why? I don't know, maybe it's because it looks like it can be a stage from F-Zero. And at the end of the arcade version, instead of fighting Super Shredder, you fight regular Shredder with a green laser sword. There's also a little bit more voice acting going on in the arcade version, but hey, that's pretty understandable, because at the time, arcade machines were much more powerful than home consoles. Now, before I wrap this up, I do want to mention that in 2009, there was a remake made called Turtles in Time Reshelled, made by Ubisoft, not Konami. Now, why is that? Well, in March of 2007, Konami completely lost the rights to make Ninja Turtle games, and the rights were given to Ubisoft. And unfortunately, Turtles in Time Reshelled wasn't that good, to be honest, and has pissed off some hardcore fans of the original arcade game and SNES version. Final thoughts? Turtles in Time is an absolutely fun beat-em-up game to play, especially with a second player. It's regarded by gamers and TMNT fans as the best Ninja Turtles game ever made. And in my opinion, along with several others, I think the Super Nintendo version is far superior than the original arcade version, and especially the remake. But unfortunately, Turtles in Time on the SNES has gone up on the very pricey side. Why? I have absolutely no idea. Maybe because the game has such great replay value and everybody loves coming back to play this game. Maybe that's the reason why it's gone up in value, but hey, I'm just guessing. But if you can ever find Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo for $20 or lesser, then I definitely recommend picking it up for your Super Nintendo, and if you can ever find the original arcade version, I definitely recommend giving that one a shot too. So in my opinion, I'm going to give Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo an 8 out of 10, with the title... Cowabunga! This is Conkeronine signing out, and thank you for watching.